Welcome back to Sad Dad Games Podcast, where if the games are sad dad, we're going to talk about it. I'm Shan.
I'm Tucker.
And I'm Emerlie.
Today we're talking about Silent Hill 2, the remake. We're going to be talking about the finale, and then we're going to be talking about the recontextualization of the game, what we have learned about it since finishing the game, and then going back and replaying it. Tucker and I have replayed the game, and we've realized all the things that we didn't understand and all of the things that we misunderstood and all the terrible things that we have said in all the previous episodes. We're going to try to clean that up because, I don't really want to apologize per se because we just didn't understand and they wanted us to misunderstand it. But we're just going to say that we now understand. It's been elucidated and we're going to clean it up. So anyway, let's get into it, right? So where do we start off in this episode?
Yeah, so we just left the jail and have entered into the foggy world of Silent Hill again at the docks, and we end up finding a rowboat, and we start rowing through the thick, thick fog. This was one of a really cool sequence for me. Throughout the game, we've heard about the story of this woman banished to the island, and this guy rowing out in the thick, thick fog, just looking for the candlelight. And that's actually what you do in this sequence. It looks like it's the moon instead of a candle, but there's just light in the distance in the fog that you have to row to, and you're on your controller, you're pushing your trigger buttons to steer the boat. Just a really cool sequence.
I believe I had a theory that you would do this in the game.
Probably. Check the tapes.
Check the tapes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Roll them back.
Roll them back. But yeah, I think this is the same island that the lady was banished to. That's what I have to assume. I can't imagine there's that many islands in this lake.
I don't think it's lakeside. You're just like crossing the lake to the other side. It's still connected. I believe. I don't think it's an actual island.
Oh.
Well, either way, like it's a nice little symbolism of that story that you keep seeing all throughout the game. And to actually see him rowing towards this light to their special place is really symbolic.
Yeah, so we land, we undock, and then we are in the hotel gardens, and we have to find our way inside. There's some cool stuff around, there's some statues, but you go inside and you check in at your red save square. You find the map, and the map is really cool because it has your room marked, and it looks like it's Mary's handwriting saying, like, meet me here. I can't remember the exact letters or exact words it used. But yeah, then you start in this really awesome hotel, which I think is probably my second favorite area of the game. I think the jail is my first, just because
you really love those spider monsters?
And those GD spider monsters.
You loved it when they just like suckled your face?
Yeah, I love my face getting suckled. But I think it was one of my favorite areas for horror. The basement I think was one of my favorite sequences in this entire game, which we can get to later on. But what are your guys' thoughts on the hotel?
I thought it was even though it's the ending, it's actually the calmest section of the game. It was the least tense, I think, out of the hotel, out of the prison. I just never felt like I was as tense, and I don't know why. I just don't think it was as chaotic as any of the other sections, or at least like the atmospherics weren't as dark and crazy.
Yeah, I enjoyed some of the puzzles in this one, and like you said, it wasn't that crazy. I did get bum rushed by quite a few spider leggy monsters. I can't remember, but there was probably 4 or 5 that came after me at one point. So that was terrifying. And then Tucker, like you said, the basement, which we'll get to, was horrifying. But other than that, like pretty calm and serene compared to the other locations. And you have places like the hospital that's very lore heavy. You're picking up a lot of things, reading a lot of things. And I feel like they kind of scaled that back a little bit in the hospital. And it was just like fun puzzles with a lot of things attacking you. That really surprised me.
Yeah. So the first thing that you do when you get into the hotel is you run around the corner and you hear the piano and you find Laura, the little beehole, and she's playing something creepy, obviously something sinister. I don't know if there's like
Is this
any sort
Phantom of the Opera? Like,
Yeah.
she's luring you and she's just a no good beat.
Right. She has pizza face and she's like, I don't know if they always let you like, they always do an insert. Like you can always punch in on like the sheet music. I don't know if I was going to look into it. I don't know if there's like any sort of motif on what type of music that they're choosing. I think
We
they're
need
like
Luke
sonatas or
here.
something.
We need to call in Luke and his expertise.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys keep playing the piano for a while?
Did
I just like
once.
kept clicking on it and I'm like, okay, is this gonna do anything? And so I let it play out for a while and then realized, no, this isn't like a puzzle or anything. I need to move on.
But you
Yeah.
do play the Silent Hill 2 theme that
Yeah.
plays in the beginning, the slow piano.
Oh.
But when you're doing it here, it's like bang, 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 and not like it's just really annoying, one note at a time.
So why is Laura in this scene finally let off her beehole vibes? She just like is suddenly chill.
She's got no more beeholes to give. I don't know. Maybe she's exhausted.
She's run out of locations to run to.
Yeah.
She just feels like
that-
she's tortured you enough. I think that's all she says. She's like, no, I'm good. I've done enough to you, locking you in a room in the hospital. We learn later that she doesn't see the monsters, so that was really just her locking you in a room. It just so happens that you perceive there to be a fleshlet. So that's on you, I guess. So
Victim
her sense
blaming.
of like of tormenting you was you tormenting yourself as you chase her throughout the town. So it really, her tormenting you is just having to chase her. So it's not, I guess it's not terrible tormenting. It's just she's being a brat.
I mean, I think it's pretty fair that a child is trying to run away from a grown-ass adult man, but kicking the keys away and stomping on your foot, that's where she really just crossed the line.
Yeah. I guess, okay, so stomping on your hand, then running away, then locking you in a room, and now she's done being a beehole. And all of this because apparently you didn't come to visit Mary enough while she was in the hospital a year ago when they were friends in the hospital together.
So I have a theory here of why she stops being a beehole here. So
theory.
So when we first meet Laura, she is reading a letter from Mary. Now, you interrupt her. She may not have time to finish the letter. So she runs away being a beehole, but coming back to Laura in the hotel, she has finished the letter. And at the end of the letter, it says, James is not that bad of a guy. And so maybe she forgive you because Mary did.
She's read your letter by this point.
Well, it took her this long because she's an orphan and she can't read, which we've established, very illiterate. So yes, it
she
took her
didn't have
this
parents
entire
to
game.
teach her.
No, she's like Charlie. He's just so dumb.
And she's been in the hospital her entire childhood. And so she didn't get a formal education.
Right. So yes, she had a hard time reading that letter.
We didn't explain to the audience, the 30 views that we get on these episodes, that we have finished the game. We are going to be talking about the finale. We did talk about this. We are going to recontextualize the whole thing.
So spoiler warning.
That's spoiler. We're going to, everything is fair game now.
That was a spoiler warning.
Okay, this actually clears it all up. She's functionally illiterate and except, to some degree, but she has at least read that letter. She's read your letter. She's led up, or at least somebody has read the letter to her between like your last encounter and this encounter. We've actually never seen her read. We just know that it has been read to her between that point and this point. I think that's fair.
Yeah, there's no proof. Like with Leah Michelle, apparently can't read. That's like a whole thing.
All right, so she then then she realizes that the letter for you is somehow just mysteriously gone. She dropped it, I guess.
I don't know how it just slips out of the envelope.
Yeah.
She's the worst.
So she runs off, and you're now off to go find the letter yourself. And so you're running off through the hotel to fight
And you have to
monsters
find your
again.
sex tape.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You're still holding out for that sex tape.
So the stakes are high. The motivation is there. You're on a mission. As the Blues Brothers would say, you're on a mission from God.
Exactly.
And the stakes have never been higher. I thought it was interesting that the puzzle throughout the hospital was, well, it's not Disney themed per se. It's just folklore. It's we know it as Disney just because they're Disney princesses, but it's really just mythology, or what's it called? Fairy tales.
I think these ones are German fairy tales. I'm trying
German
to
fairy
remember because
tales.
I did a bunch of research about a year ago. But
Like some
it's been a
Grimm
while.
Brothers stuff.
It might have
Yeah.
been Grimm or it might have been German. I can't remember which one it ended up being.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So-
For some reason, they chose that.
Yeah, you got Little Mermaid, Cinderella, and what's the other one? Is it Snow White? Okay.
I do enjoy that when they do these lock puzzles, these lock and key puzzles, that they are puzzles that have different combinations, so they can force you to do the puzzles every time because they could just put a new combination on it. So screw you. You can't. Because in Resident Evil 7 and 8, like, there are some get out puzzles in them. And once you've beat the game once, if you can just like beeline it to the end of the puzzle and just like beat, it's easy every time after that. I like that they don't let you get away with that here. So screw you, speedrunners.
Did you guys have to just force brute the key turn on this last puzzle?
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
That wasn't just me because I was like, I don't get it.
I figured it out, but only after several minutes.
Well, I knew like I had to like add, subtract numbers, things like that, but I was trying to figure out what those numbers would actually be, but it was still like in this puzzle when it like gives you the riddle, I was like, is it adding or subtracting? I'm so confused here.
Yeah, I figured, okay, everything's in front of me. I tried adding, subtracting, whatever, and then finally I just went, and then I just like weirdly ignored all of the numbers and just put the ones in on the bottom, and that worked. I was like, I don't even know logically why that worked, but it worked, so I just went with it.
I was just jamming it.
Yeah, I tried a few
You're just
times, like with the
mashing it at this
riddles.
point.
It's just random.
Go ahead, Tucker.
Yeah, I just was going to say I had to, just turn one key at a time till I hit it to where the door opened, and then, remember that number. Not the hardest one to brute force, kind of reminded me of the clock puzzle from earlier on in the game. But
You
one
don't
of my
really know what you're doing, so you just keep clicking.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite parts of the hotel, though, is the red light puzzle. They have to go get the light bulb, get a can opener, get a can of paint a new light bulb just to see a code for the suitcase. I don't know why I loved that so much, but it's like this little puzzle within a puzzle.
Well, I just loved like the multi-steps process of adding things together. That was very like traditional Resident Evil feeling. You don't know all the pieces that you need, and then it all adds together, and it's just like, it's really fun going to disparate parts of like what would have been the mansion to get pieces to add together. That was so classic to me. And I loved the LOL that I got out of like the horror scene, building up the tension of like all of these boarded up rooms, the blood everywhere, and then you find out it's just red paint that's been spilled.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great laugh.
Okay, a couple places that I got stuck with puzzles in this hotel was I got, I think, the bolt cutters, and I couldn't remember where to use those. And even though when I first initially walked into the hotel, I did try to open that gate first, and I was like, oh, that's not it. And then it was a while before I got the bolt cutters, and so I forgot about it. Did you guys look out the window to see that you need to go back outside, or was that just me?
I had a mental note to go back to it the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just me.
Once I found the
I
bolt
just
cutters, I'm like,
recalled.
okay.
Okay, so I was circling around a little bit trying to figure it out. I mean, not like a terribly long time, but I was like, oh, I really can't figure out where to go next. But when you first like walk up this set of stairs in the front lobby area, I believe, there's a place where you can like look out the window. And so I looked out the window, and when you look out, you can actually see like a little light glint. And I was like, I wonder what that is. Maybe it's the light bulb or something. And so I went outside, went up to the gate, and was like, oh, the bolt cutters, duh. And so I was able to go get that bulb. But yeah, it was the glint that told me I needed to go back out there.
I saw the light bulb when I came in, because I'm like, oh, that's weird. There's a light bulb there. Then found the light bulb puzzle, and I'm like, okay, that's obviously where I need to go back. So that wasn't.
The other place I got stuck was the book on top of the window. Did you guys know to shoot that right away?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. That took me, well, it took me about 10 seconds of looking at it. I was like, it did
Has to be
stand
this.
out.
Yeah.
It felt
Yeah, but-
Resident Evil-like as well.
Okay, because I was like circling around for a while. Like I left and I kept looking at my map a bunch of times, just trying to figure out how do I get out to the terrace? I can't figure out. Maybe it's one of these other windows. And so like I like went and circled the building for a while, and then finally came back to it. And I just like really just stared at it for a while. I'm like, actually, I might have gone back to it twice. But either way, like I finally was like, oh, I think I can shoot this. So I got stuck on some of these puzzles. It sounds like you guys just breezed right through it just fine.
I did get stuck.
I would have missed that, but I had played games that had similar puzzles.
That's true. I'm a little bit newer to this kind of puzzle game.
I got stuck on the employee elevator for an embarrassingly long time.
How did you get stuck on the employee elevator? Don't you just go up and down? Or are you saying getting the key?
So, no, not getting the key. So the employee elevator, you go in and there's this cabinet where you can unload all your crap.
Yeah.
And to lower your weight.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing like one at a time, a little bit at a time, thinking that there's some like combination that I need to do to make it work. And then you end up just unloading everything. So
yeah,
that was terrifying of, okay, I now have nothing and I'm going into the basement.
Yeah. Well, my thing was like, I unloaded a couple things. I'm like, what's happening? And then it clicked with me that it was my own items. And I was like, oh, F no. And so I thought I was like at the end of the game, and it was making me get rid of all this stuff before I kind of go through this whole like reveal of what's happening. I don't know, confrontation. And so I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I was like, I'll just walk around for a second. So I picked everything back up, tried to get on the elevator, and then it said it was too heavy. And I was like, oh, damn it. And so I went back and unloaded everything at that point. So I did not get stuck there.
Yeah, I looked at the closet, saw that you could unload, reload. So I just like picked my item right back up, went on the elevator, saw that it was too heavy. And I was like, oh, you. Then I went and dumped everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was hoping I didn't have to dump everything. I was hoping it'd be like a and or, like choose kind of what two things you want to go down in the basement. And that wasn't it. It was everything. But the basement, including the flashlight, and that could have came in really handy. Basement was super fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your guys' thoughts on the basement?
Fun is not the word I would use.
First time versus second time, I was emboldened by the chainsaw run to realize that if you just run, nothing can touch you. And so the first time it's like I'm walking so slowly that everything is horrifying. And then I realized while playing the chainsaw run that nothing can touch you if you just run. And so I'm just like, when I'm playing that section in the basement the second time, I'm just like zipping between doors and nothing even notices that I'm in the hallway ever. And so it goes by with like I passed that section in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I had a very similar experience. The chainsaw run really emboldens you.
Yeah.
So Emerlie hasn't done the chainsaw run. For listeners, after the first time you beat this game, you unlock New Game Plus, and at the very beginning of New Game Plus, as you're walking into Silent Hill, there's a chainsaw you can pick up and use that as your melee weapon. You are then invincible. It's basically infinite rocket launcher from Resident Evil. You can attack anything with no remorse because most enemies are a one-hit kill with it.
You just go around like you're chopping wood. Just
I had no fear the second time through.
Really?
I'm just like, I don't care what comes. A nurse? Sure. 10 nurses? Fine. I'm just going to chainsaw their faces off and get through this. Yeah.
or chop their butts off,
Yeah.
Exactly.
or Flight of the Conchords. He grabbed him by the dick and chopped his whole body off.
Is that Dave? That sounds like a very Dave.
Yeah, that was Dave.
That's beautiful.
Is there anything else that was noteworthy before you get the sex tape?
So I think
When I pulled the thing out of the fireplace and then got bum rushed by that monster.
Yeah.
No,
monkey
thank
arms.
you.
Yeah. Monkey arms can go F themselves unless you have the chainsaw, and then it's
Yeah.
easy.
I hadn't yet learned how to take them down because I had been running past them the entire game. So I used all my good ammo there, and then I was screwed for like the rest of the game. So I actually beat Maria with one bullet left. She might have taken my last bullet. It was fantastic and adrenaline rush because like I also had no health left because I didn't learn to dodge well, which Tucker did, so he's going to brag about that. But
Okay, so
I also didn't have to
excellent.
restart the battle, which Tucker did. So
And I had to restart the battle too. So there you have it.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to dodge well in the hotel because stupid Eddie made me use all my health items, and I wasn't smart enough to just restart the encounter. So I'm walking in the hotel with like one syringe and maybe a couple health drinks. And the stupid ambush guys kept on getting me, and I was just blowing through health drinks. So I think by the time I got to Maria, I had maybe like 3 syringes and a couple of health drinks left, and it was just
not
terrifying.
enough. Yeah.
Eddie's a deadeye. Like he's brutal. Okay. So anything else before you run to the room?
How was the gem puzzle for you guys? That one took me a little bit to find out the key. I didn't look for I couldn't figure out the orientation, but yeah, then it's on the wall in front of you.
Well, I saw it was on the wall, and I saw how many spots there were, and so like I live streamed this too, so I was like, I don't know, like kind of talking out loud, and I was like looking around. I'm like, I bet like once I find the number for the safe, then that's where I'll find the rest because I've already explored everything else. So I thought I had to find that many more gems. I didn't realize that like there would be some empty spots. And so I was looking around for a while for numbers for the safe. And behind that desk in that room, there was like a cardboard box with 4 numbers on it. So I was like, maybe this is it. And I just kept looking around at other things too. Obviously, none of that worked. I finally went back and I was like, well, I'll just drop all the gems now. And I did see that symbol on the wall, but once I actually added the gems and saw how the puzzle worked, I started placing them and then like they all clicked into place and that was the full image. I was like, I wasted quite a bit of time on this. Yeah.
I love the one like vomit body bag guy in the basement that you can't take out because you have no weapons. That was a big surprise. Luckily, yeah, it was kind of run, grab the gem, run out. But that was, I don't know. I just, yeah, you get built up so much with so much ammo, so much gear, and then they throw you in with nothing. And that was first time through a whole new level of horror. Of, yeah, just super tense, just trying to sneak around. But yeah, second time through, you feel, yeah, run. All you can do, if you run, you're safe.
Right. So after you've done all that, you've done the puzzle with all the what are they called? The fairy tale creatures. Then you get to run to the 3rd floor. You get to recover your sex tape with Mary, and you are revealed to have murdered her in her sickness, and that's when it all floods back to you, and you then re-encounter with Laura. You tell her that you murdered Mary, and she decides she hates you and tries to beat you up. She gets into fisticuffs, and then she runs off crying and like a little beehole. I guess she was justified in that situation. And then as like all the truth is dawning on you, you slip into unreality. You slip into the other world. You realize that you have you have become psychotic, essentially, or you have broken with reality entirely. Is that how you would describe what unreality is to James?
Yes, I have a kind of a different theory on the other world
Okay.
side of things, the unreality, because to me, it would make a lot of sense after James watches this tape and these memories of him smothering Mary while she's sick come back to him. It feels like the guilt is what pushes him into the other world. And so I don't know if it's being untethered from reality or moving into the guilt reality. That this is what the world looks like to him through these guilty goggles he's wearing.
So I did see a lot of theories online about the overall what's happening in the game. And so this is like not original to me. I'm not that smart of a cookie, but there was a video that was talking about how Silent Hill lies in between reality and unreality. And you have people like Laura who only see reality. She's like, everything is fine here, and she doesn't see the monsters or anything. And possibly like when this is happening is, like you said, slipping into unreality. So people are kind of teetering in and out. You're kind of in the middle ground until you start to slip even further into it through, I think it's guilt.
Okay.
Like you're just going into
was
psychosis.
I want to just go ahead and claim victory on this one. I believe it was at episode 2 that this was my theory when you go to the hospital. I said that James having lost Mary or whatever my theory was, that his psychotic break or whatever was causing unreality to slip into reality, and that's where all the monsters were coming into Silent Hill. That was essentially almost a flawless analysis. So
Way
that
to
was
go,
one of my
Shan. Snaps
biggest
for
wins.
Shan.
Yeah.
While we're taking credit for things, I want to say I called out very early on that James kills Mary or killed Mary.
Yeah, you win that one. I did not win the he had an affair, but he clearly wants one.
Somebody who
think
looks
he
just
did
like
have
his
an
wife.
affair.
Yeah. He subconsciously wants one with Maria.
Mm-hmm.
He's emotionally cheating. That's
Yeah.
fair enough. Way to go, Shan. You did it.
Hey, he had his ring off, and in the club, you can see like a little lost and found bin, and there was a ring. It could have been his. I'm just saying.
There you go. All right, so then you run around the unreality of the hotel. You run into Angela one more time, and she's in her hell world. Apparently, she's always seen it this way. It's the first time you're seeing her version of unreality. She reveals herself to be a sexual assault victim of her brother and her dad.
Yeah,
and
so I
you
think we
see them
really need
on
to
the wall.
apologize to Angela here.
Yeah.
RB, we do not want to salt the snail. But also, the brother and the father, I think those are the ones that are her dad boss. I think those are the two bodies.
Yeah.
They are.
So
So it is, it's an abstraction of those two bodies in a bed frame in this disgusting amorphic conglomeration of assaulting.
okay, so I have some theories and ideas and all that fun stuff here. So again, not my theory. There is a lot that I was researching online, but someone was explaining how in your mind you have your conscious and your subconscious, and then the subconscious is split up into two. So there is your personal subconscious, and then there is a collective subconscious. And the collective is basically like everyone's minds kind of coming together. And in a separate video, someone was saying how when we see Abstract Daddy, that's not Angela's perception of what Abstract Daddy looks like. That is your perception. But it could be like that's how she sees them possibly. And when you saw Abstract Daddy with them blended together, that's where I'm thinking that it was just a blend of the collective subconscious, that collective of what she sees with what you are seeing in that moment. I also had kind of an idea because we kept talking about like what are they, like, is this a door frame, all of that, and then I had an idea that it could have been a bed frame, and I googled it and there's other people saying it was a bed frame as well. And so my personal idea is that her with like all the flames and stuff, I think she set this place, or she set the house on fire, and I think she killed her dad and her brother. And I think that is their melty bodies in their beds. And so that's why you see them kind of propped up on the wall. That's possibly the bed frames. And that's why she always sees things in flames, is because I think she killed them. And the whole time she's like, where's my mama? Where's my mama? And it's possible that she she mentioned also her mom had died a long time ago. And she does call her mama instead of mother. So probably when she was very young, her mom died, and her brother and her dad continued to abuse her in horrific ways for a long time. And then I think she eventually set the house on fire. And so with that as well, I think that when she was being attacked by Abstract Daddy and being tortured, that she possibly thought that she would see her mom in this in this town. And so she sees them, whatever. So she's running around trying to find her mom. But I think that we're only seeing who they've killed. So that's why her mom is not in this town. She did not kill her mom. She killed her dad and her brother. That's why she sees them. But she thinks she'll see her mom.
Okay, so
That was a
Tucker
lot.
and I, yeah, no, that's what the point of this episode is, to recontextualize everything that we misunderstood. But Tucker and I had the theory that she hadn't killed her mom, and that it was like an abusive domestic abuse situation, possibly similar to like how it was portrayed in Lost, where Kate's mom was abused, but she still loved her husband, and so she disowns Kate. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it
I got a
was
real Kate from Lost vibe with
Mm.
it
this
was
whole
like
thing.
it was like, oh, did she kill her dad and her brother, and so her mom disowned her, ran out on her, and now she's just lost, right? Because she's lost her entire family. We don't know.
With that as well, there's one point, because I was rewatching clips as well from the game, where I think she says that her mom told her that she deserved everything she got.
Right.
She possibly, well, I think her mom did know about the abuse, and she's like, you deserved it.
Yeah. So,
Messed up.
and yeah, we now know the knife was, she was suicidal then, she's suicidal now. And I don't know if there's anything else to add to that, but really
She
dark
does
stuff.
say to James, "You're not my mama," which I think is a kid's book by Dr. Seuss. Just want to throw that out.
Okay. Okay.
So
And another thing that I wanted to point out that I caught right at the very end as I was replaying it the second time is I didn't catch until like, I think it's like your penultimate encounter with her in the graveyard. You mentioned that you're looking for a little kid, and she freaks out and she runs away. She thinks that you're looking to sexually assault a little kid. She thinks you're a sexual predator, and that's why she's scared. And so all of these encounters, she thinks that you're looking for a kid, or she also thinks that you call Mary your Mary, and so she thinks you're possessive of women. She's your Mary, or she was your Mary. So like everything's in the context of you're a toxic man. You think of women in this toxic perspective, and you're using the wrong language. You think of them the wrong way, and you don't see that, but you are. But I see it because I'm a victim, and you need to get that out of your head. You're a bad person, and it changes like every encounter with her.
yeah, I love playing the second time through with these encounters with Angela because it elucidates so much. Then you realize all the clues of sexual abuse are there from the very beginning. And they're just so kind of perfectly layered in to where first time through, they're pretty inconspicuous. The second time through, you're like, oh, like red flag, red flag, red flag. I know exactly, I should have caught this the first time. So I thought it was just really fun, with it. Angela's probably my favorite character, the second playthrough, because she has such a more richer story and backstory, where
Mhm.
Eddie, maybe not so much.
Yeah, he's
I'm
like,
still a
I was
little,
bullied because I'm fat. And it's like, don't eat all this ice cream, dude.
yeah.
Yeah. I was
Laura
bullied
was
because
kind of
I was
fun
fat and
too.
I didn't go that direction.
Yeah. Shan
Shan
did
was
murder
a fat
people.
kid. He
I
really
just
was.
lost.
Yeah. And he still actively has to keep it off. Like, if you let off, it's just the pounds are right back on you.
Yeah, I lost the weight, and then I took the abuse of being fat and sharpened it into humor. So like I went the healthy direction. I didn't try to kill dogs and shoot people in the kneecap.
You did bully me as a kid, though,
Yeah, and you're healthier for it.
and funnier for it.
Did you guys notice that the monsters after Angela don't attack you? They're just kind of chilling.
What monsters after Angela?
There's a part where after Angela's cutscene where you are just walking and there's a few monsters around. They don't do anything. They don't attack you. You can walk right past them. I still beat them up, because want to be sure.
Because
But
you're rough and tough.
yeah,
A couple other things. I feel like the mirror scene kind of denotes that you and Angela are more similar than you realize in that you've both killed people or killed someone. That was my theory anyway. Every time that you go to touch her, that's when she freaks out. Like one time you go touch her in the park, that's when she yells and she runs off. You go touch her in the mirror room, she tries to stab you with the knife. I think there's one other moment where you try to calm her down, she freaks out. Like all of this is just very instinctual of like having hands laid on her, and it's always physical aggression from her father and her brother. So she cannot control this. This is PTSD.
Hmm. I
I
just
can't
want to
remember
say
if there's anything else.
with Angela, you're in that bar before, and then you come back and it's like watery, and then you go see Angela. Did you guys, before you left the bar the first time, go look at those fishing lures?
I did once, yeah.
I thought that was kind of weird because there was like a display case off to the side in the bar, and it had fishing lures, and I thought that was going to turn into a puzzle, and because it let you view it and look at it, and I'm like, oh, this must be a puzzle, but it doesn't look like I can do anything now. Maybe we'll come back to it later. And then when you come back later, right before you run into Angela, and it's like all underwater, like that display case is not there anymore. So what was the point of that? That was so weird.
So here's my guess is that it was a puzzle because that room was very developed and modeled, and they took it out at the last minute and they didn't want to let it go to waste, so they just allowed it to be an interaction.
Or they forgot to take the code out or something. I don't know.
It could be something like that, yeah. But
yeah.
didn't want
After
to let it go
this,
to waste.
we get a double pyramid head encounter.
I was losing my cookies. That was not okay. Like, my hands were sweating. Near the end of the game, it got really bad. My whole body was like getting overheated, but also like my hands were super sweaty. And at some point, like my left hand was cramping. And so I was just like really struggling to hold on to the controller and run around. And they're so fast. It's so hard to avoid them.
So, Shan, you're probably the best at painting a picture with your words. Paint us a picture of this encounter. What's going on here?
All right, so you walk in, there's like two iron gates or steel doors or whatever, iron doors, and you walk in and you see Maria hung upside down on this plate, and she like you don't know why, right? Like here she's been skewered, she's been mangled, she has died multiple times, and she's just alive again, and it's just like a close up of her face upside down, and you don't even get any greater context of that other than just like some obscured background of these pyramid heads holding these poles or these spears, and you get James Sunderland saying, "Let her go. Haven't you done enough to us?" And then it just like holds this close up on her for an extended period of time, and then you just hear this crunchy, like visceral, like guttural, stabbing sound in her, and then after a few seconds, you see blood trickle down her face, and she's been killed again. And then you get this like really campy, cheesy, like overhead aerial shot of James collapsing on his knees, giving this like this out of character shout where he collapses to his knees and he's just shakes his fist and he's
Yeah, why the F was James? Yeah, why was James so upset this time? She's died
Right.
twice before. I think he'd realize, okay, maybe it's not real. But this time he just loses it.
Yeah, and at this point he knows what Pyramid Head is, and I think he knows what Maria is, right? Or I don't know that he's come to terms with what Maria is, right? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But I think
But yeah.
it's because like, okay, so he now knows Mary, he killed Mary. I think this is the first time that he knows he killed Mary, and he's being forced to see Maria get killed, remembering that he killed Mary. So it's like he's being forced to confront his murder. I think that's why it was like an outburst.
That would make sense.
Still
Because
a
that's
little bit
what
unusual.
because that's what these pyramid heads are, right? Like these are a physicalization of his shame and guilt, trying to force him to confront what he did because
And
he's
also
trying to
punishing
repress
himself
it.
over and over again.
Right. Because, okay,
Yeah.
so this is what I told Tucker. This was my epiphany after the second playthrough, is that the character itself, the pyramid head, that thing that it's wearing on its head, this steel pyramid, is a symbolic representation of James' method of repression. This is like a literal hat or helmet that he's wearing to block out the memory of having killed Mary. And Preacher, this physical force, is coming at him to try to force him to confront it, but he's blocking it in his head.
Is this equivalent to like wearing a tinfoil hat so nothing can come or go out of your brain?
That's probably it, yeah.
It's a
just like the
tinfoil
movie
pyramid
Signs.
hat. Yeah.
It's Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be a perfect character for this.
Yeah, just to set the stage, you're in a pit, and these two pyramid heads jump down. And this is not a big pit. This is a pretty
Gladiator
claustrophobic
style
pit. Yeah.
This is
so
Gladiator 2, claustrophobic style.
Yeah. So you're now fighting two pyramid heads with spears, like Emerlie said, that are crazy fast.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you guys fare in this encounter?
Not great.
Not too bad. No, but I just dodged a lot.
Yeah, I found out run, dodge. Yeah. It was just when you see them kind of like charging, it's like, okay, that's when I dodge, and I would miss their little stabs every time.
I'm really bad with all games hitting dodge. I'm terrible at it. And you play something like Spider-Man, you can just like swing away real fast. And so my instinct is to just like run. And it's never fast enough. So I just kept getting hit and skewered over and over again.
I would dodge until I got two spears back to back, and that's when I would take a hit. I would never dodge one spear and then try to take a hit. I wait for two spears.
So this is like Mantis Lords learning their pattern on Hollow Knight. You learn their pattern, and then you wait till the double spear, and then you slash.
Yeah, never get greedy.
I did. I just kept trying to shoot them, and then I wouldn't be able to run away. I got greedy.
Before you start the encounter, he says he knows what they are, and yet you fight them still. And then after you've shot them a bunch of times, then you shout at them, "I don't need you anymore." And that's when they kill themselves. So
super, super cool scene.
Yeah.
Just feels super symbolic of, I don't know, it feels like James has some emotional growth. I'm still not the biggest fan of James, but, you know, kudos to him for, kudos to him for, you know, being a little bit emotionally mature in this moment.
Right. So I misunderstood this the first time. he definitely already knew that he killed Mary by this point. And so I thought, well, then why does he have to encounter Pyramid Head? That's not why he still encounters Pyramid Head, because it's not that he needs to admit that he killed Mary. It's that Pyramid Head needs to force him to admit that he did something wrong, I think. Admit the guilt and the shame for what he did. Or am I interpreting that wrong? Like, he's still running away from the shame of what he did.
Yeah, I think it's more accepting his actions.
It's the acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Because that's when he says, I don't need you anymore. He still already knows that he did it, but he's not ashamed of what he did anymore. He
doesn't have that
accepted
cognitive dissonance anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, he's accepted that he killed her, and depending on your ending, he's accepted it and he hates himself for it and he takes his own life, or he's accepted it and he just like walks away with that acceptance. But
I think it's also
before
like,
it was
how do you
he
get away
didn't
with not
accept it,
doing...
so he repressed it.
I think it's also like, how do you get away with not doing another Pyramid Head fight in this game? I think they also realize the gamers would be disappointed if you don't have like a final resolution with them.
But yeah, it's definitely accepting what he did.
Yeah, this felt like a very final boss fight. Two of them stressed out, running around a small arena. But joke's on you, Maria comes back in a fleshlit suit. I don't know what to call it. A metal box.
Fleshlit cage.
Fleshlit cage. And this is actually the final boss. How did you all fare here?
Terribly. Well, terribly in the third act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's where she really pwned me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, what do you guys think about Maria as the final boss? I think it's definitely, yeah. To me, retrospectively, it makes a lot of sense. I was surprised in the moment, but knowing that Maria represents Mary, he finally got over the guilt, and you gotta almost kill Mary again.
That was really messed up, but it was really cool. I mean, they did a really great job making all these monsters and, bosses just horrific.
Yeah, I loved it. She's as creepy as, she's a manifestation or a projection of what he wanted Mary to be. And so it felt creepier that way, because it felt like it needed to hold on to him. And so it was just like clingier and needier, and the more that it needed him, the darker it felt like he was while Mary was dying. The more detached he was from his own wife because of what Maria needed him in that moment while she was trying to kill him to get him. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting way to think of it.
One thing we didn't mention is the very beginning of the hotel with Laura is you learned that Laura received her letter from Mary just a year ago. And you believe that Mary had been dead for 3 years.
Nope. You're getting the timeline wrong.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well,
she
got
the letter a week ago.
Yeah, she said 1 week ago.
A week ago.
Yeah, I just rewatched the clip.
Okay, yeah. So a week ago, but she was in the hospital with Mary a year ago. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, so this is the big revelation to James that, she hasn't been dead for 3 years. Maybe she's still here. Which is really important when we get to the endings.
Right. So I thought it was interesting. It took me a while to piece together why Maria turned into a fleshlit cage. Replaying it, you also see the fleshlit in the hospital, and it made me realize that fleshlit was a symbolic representation of Mary at the moment that she was, because fleshlit is like this disfigured representation of Mary when she was disfigured and she was diseased, and it's how she felt she looked. It's how she, I think the lips probably represented their broken communication in their marriage and in their relationship. The cage probably represented her physical isolation. And, as you're beating on this pinata, you also get those spikes that like shoot out and like stab you. So I think this also represents the moments in their relationship that she talks about in the letter at the end, where she broke their relationship by lashing out, and that's why he decides he hates her, is because she's lashing out at him while she's deciding it's unfair that she's dying. So
Yeah,
I
she
think
says she lashes out to like everyone, but she took it
Mhm.
mostly out on James. And so,
Right.
yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
So I think like everything that Fleshlip is designed to be is what Mary became, and that's why you meet Fleshlip in the hospital, and that's why Maria becomes a Fleshlip. It's and that's also like Laura lures you to the hospital. That's probably where Laura and Maria had met, was like in that spot.
Think so, because Laura even said, she's like, oh, she always talked about wanting to come to Silent Hill. So it's like almost as if it's Laura's first time being at I don't know, we could be wrong. It's so hard. There's so many things that you're like, I don't fully understand this game.
Well, then where would she have gotten the letter? How would she have gotten there? Like, I don't know.
There's a lot
Wouldn't it
going
have
on.
been there?
I was kind of thinking maybe she was in multiple hospitals because she kept saying the whole time, I want to go back to Silent Hill. Please take me back. But she initially, I think, got sick in Silent Hill while they were visiting. And so she probably bounced around to hospitals.
Okay. Okay, so placement I'm unsure of, but
Mm-hmm.
still it was it's that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it was still, the point was that it happened at the hospital for that reason.
Oh, do you guys want to talk about endings? There's 8 different endings.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just dive into my ending. I got the water ending,
Me too.
and this one, at the end of the game, once you kill the Maria boss, you are back in your car outside of Silent Hill, and you have this monologue where you're talking and have some pretty dark thoughts. He's talking about, James is saying he feels guilty and bad that he killed you. He wanted to go on. He knows that Maria would not want him to kill himself. And as he's doing this monologue, he like checks the rear view mirror and kind of looks behind them, which is, I think, pretty telling that Mary is probably in the back seat, dead.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Mary's body's there. So I think the big revelation here is that James has been pretty disassociated with reality on Mary's death. He believes she's been dead for 3 years. We think that she's been sick for 3 years and dead to James for 3 years, but he only killed her probably not that long ago. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why he is bringing her to Silent Hill, because she wants to go back to Silent Hill.
Yes. So I just pieced together, this is probably the car that was by the rest stop at the beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
right before you go down
Yeah,
the
that's
hill.
what. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Also,
what I think
okay,
so.
as far as timeline goes, it's Mary gets sick 3 years ago. 1 year ago, she meets Laura in the hospital. 1 week ago is Laura's birthday, and that's when Mary has a note. She sends it out. She also has a note for James. She has that put aside. James hasn't seen it yet. In that 1 week between writing those 2 notes, James comes along and he kills her. And I think it's literally like the hour before the game starts, because his ring is off and his hands are shaking. I think he
Yeah,
or not like an hour before, but like the day before. I think he literally just killed her. And I think, I'm just piecing this together now, she's in the back seat of the car as you run past her to go down the hill to start the
Yep.
game. And then like you then circle all the way back, you get in the car and you drive down in the lake and kill yourself.
If that's the ending you got, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he, like you said, he was shaking, all of that. And yeah, I think he immediately just started dissociating and just kind of had this out of body experience. And then was like, well, I got to take her to Silent Hill. It's what she wanted. And so he just kind of probably drove right out there while he was having this psychotic episode.
Yeah. Okay. He's at the hotel. smothers her, puts her in the car, drives all the way around, because again, he's not on an island. He just drives, like, if you've seen the map, it's you've rode across the lake, but really it's attached. So he just drives right
You
around
think
the
he
lake.
killed her at that hotel? Because she kept saying she wanted to go back to Silent Hill, but he never got the chance to take her back.
Yeah, but that's like Lakeside Hotel. That's not Silent Hill. He never
Okay.
took her back to Silent Hill, which is across the lake. He just wasn't coming to visit her at Lakeside Hotel where she's staying while she's dying.
Okay.
But
I mean, her
so
being
confusing.
killed. I mean, her being killed after.
He literally
so
drives out there. He kills her. He has the tape. He leaves it there, puts her in the car, drives around to that stop, and then he's shaking, and then he dissociates and he runs off.
I don't know if I agree with everything that Shan said.
I don't think
agree
I
with
do
it.
either.
But
She's in the car.
But she being killed at the hotel, I think makes sense with the videotape, because the videotape is them at the hotel, and where it's flashing and kind of glitching through of you smothering her. I think that's where I can see, okay, yes, that's where she was. That's where James smothered her, was at the hotel.
But that looks like an old tape where they visited, because it shows them at the hotel, and then at the end of near the end of the tape before it switches over, she coughs. So I think she caught some kind of sickness in Silent Hill. But then when it shows him killing her, no one's holding that videotape, but it keeps showing all these different angles. So in my mind, that part was not actually on the tape. I think that it's part of his mind of him killing her was on that tape, and he had to, go and find that. But I think the first part of the tape was real. It was when they were visiting at a previous time, and she started coughing because they talked multiple times. If you look at a lot of the stuff throughout the game, there's a lot of rich history to Silent Hill, which we can keep talking about. But one of them was talking about this like wave, this pandemic, this plague that took over Silent Hill. And so I think that while they were visiting, she got sick while she was there. She's been to that hospital. Things maybe start declining. And whether or not that's where they ended up staying, I think that still brought back. What?
In the manager's room, there's a note that says, clean up in aisle Mary's room.
Does it? I remember seeing like a note, but...
There's a note that says that room is now free because she's dead.
So also in the hotel, when you get to like the nurse's station in the hotel, there is a file that has MSS. which is Mary's initials. So
she died in the hotel.
Shut up.
As far as location of the hotel, I don't know. Yeah, the whole lake part of it. I don't know the geography of the area.
Just look at it right now.
Oh, there's a map? Okay.
Silent Hill 2 map. It's just literally right there.
Okay, but I still think the second part of that tape is in his brain hole, because no one's holding that video camera, but it's like all these different angles, unless it was just set down in like one angle, and maybe it was partly flashes in his brain that was spliced together. You know what? Shut up.
He literally just killed her like an hour ago.
No, I know he just killed her.
And then he drove to the restroom, and he dissociated and ran past her while she was in the car.
The whole time.
I'm
curious if you could just look in the car.
Yeah, looking at the map, I understand now.
You see Toluca Lake?
Yeah, I see things, Shan. Shut your face hole.
I get it now. I see through the Matrix. I understand this game.
Okay, so she wanted to go back so bad, and it was literally right there.
But she couldn't go by herself. She needed James to take her, and he never took her there. That's how much he hated her.
He mentions it. He's like, I hated her. I hated you. Okay, and also I want to go back to the lashing out part of it, because that for me was very relatable as far as lashing out at the people you care most about. I think that's just like, as children to parents, we do it. I think as friends, we can do it as well. It's just, we always lash out at the people that are close to us. So I thought that was a really nice little detail that was thrown in there of, how these lashing outs just kept on throwing wrench after wrench into their relationship to where James ended up hating her. I think a lot of times with terminal illness stories, there's this kind of good feel good factor to it of like, oh, they overcame so much, hurrah. And this, I think, is such a more realistic take on how terminal illness can destroy relationships. Sans maybe the murder.
Yeah, and with terminal illness, it's mixed feelings for those around it, for sure.
Yeah. It's not pretty. Nobody is going to be able to pretend that everything is perfect. You just kind of have to write it out, and just kind of everybody has to smile through it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just, and then after somebody's passed, you just have to go through the motion of saying everything was perfect. I don't know. It's just like, it's this facade that everybody puts on.
You know, that's actually talked about in The Fault in Our Stars, because you have these two characters who have had cancer, and I won't give anything away, but they have cancer. And it's just like this experience of these two like terminally ill kids. And one of them talks about how his ex-girlfriend also, I think, had cancer and she died of it. And it really kind of dives into that where he's like, yeah, like everyone, it's been a long time, but he says something about how everyone always says she was so brave. And he's like, she was kind of a bitch, you know? And it's that same thing where it's like, yeah, like we're always talking about how strong they were and how amazing. And they just lit up the room. And it's like, the reality is they were probably a bitch, you know? It's not always, and sometimes we try to sugarcoat things, or we try to sugarcoat their personality to kind of make up for maybe they weren't that great of a person.
Yeah, we just try to like, I don't know, you just kind of have to like whitewash it, or you have to kind of paint over it, because you don't want to remember the dark stuff. You just want to, it's fine to pretend that stuff didn't exist so that you can remember the good stuff. I don't think lying about that to get through it is wrong because
I don't even know necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's lying. I think that's kind of a natural part of the grieving process is you want to remember somebody for their good qualities. Because if you're always focusing on the negative, that's not doing anything for grief. So you want to remember the good in a person. Everybody's life is super complicated. And so, I think as humans, we need to really simplify death. And I think this is a way we do it. We can admit to ourselves that that person was a complicated person, but these are the attributes I cared the most about. And this is what I want to remember.
Yeah. So I got what'd you say the ending is? It's called Leave. Is that what it is?
I believe.
Leave?
Yeah.
So this one, as far as I remember, he just kind of sits down at Mary's bedside. She's sickly, she's disfigured, and he just kind of lays it out for her that he hates her after she's like, I can't remember the whole dialogue, but it's, I always loved you, James. I'm sorry I lashed out at you. And I think it just explains that that this was a mercy kill, and he's like, not really, I did it because I hated you. And so it was more of an excuse to get you out of my life because I wanted you out of the way. And so
yeah, but then
it's
she
the
also
darkest
was like,
ending.
no, it's also, is that the ending where
Mhm.
she's like, no, like I understand and all this stuff, and she still tries to make him feel good about, even though he says like, well, I hated you. She's like, it's okay.
Well, here's the thing though.
I asked
That's
for
all
it.
in his mind because she's
Exactly.
dead. So I guess Pyramid Head didn't do his job because he's still consoling himself and lying to himself.
Get it together, Pyramid Head.
Do you need
Do
3
your
Pyramid
job.
Heads next time?
You had one job, do it. Yeah, before we get to justifying James, a second time through, mentioned this before, you get a chainsaw and you could just blow through it and feel like a god. So
God mode.
I really wanted to get some other endings. I checked out a few walkthroughs, and I did the dog ending and the bliss ending. The dog ending is adorable and fantastic. So you don't get the final set of bosses. So you don't get the double Pyramid Head, and you don't get the
Well,
Maria
they just glaze
fleshlight
over
box.
all of that.
So instead of going into Maria's room, you go into a room across the hall, and there's this dog that is just like crudely typing on this, like, looks like a
Like
soundboard.
keyboard cat.
It's a
Yeah.
Shiba Inu, right?
Shiba Inu. And anyway, I think they start speaking Japanese. There's no English. It's like English subtitled, and it is amazing. And it just ends with you and the dog locking eyes. He licks your face. Very
That's so
wholesome.
stupid.
Then the bliss ending, there's a few things you need to get throughout the game as you play through, but you unlock this box and you drink this potion before you go in and watch the videotape. And when you watch the videotape, it's a different videotape. It is a happy ending videotape of just James and Mary at the hotel. Everything's fine. It's a fun thing. It ends with them embracing on the videotape and kissing. And you also don't get the last few bosses.
Isn't that the one? It also like pans away and you see that he's not in his chair anymore. So it's almost as if he's been absorbed into the videotape.
Yes, that is. So kind of cool. The bliss ending, I think, is new to the remake, where the dog ending is also in the first version of this game.
And there's a UFO version where he just gets abducted and there's a clone of him. So that's kind of stupid and silly. I
It's
think the
the
creators had some
original-
fun with it.
It's the original model, though, right? From the
Yeah, I
original
think so.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets real meta and real ridiculous.
I just have to say, I love this game, but the end, just for the kind of real relationship between James and Mary. I don't know. I can't praise that enough. It just feels very raw and real, and there's no sugarcoating. And it just, the more I think about it, it just has layers and layers and layers of complex emotions and complex relationships that I think almost anybody could relate to in some way or the other, which I really loved.
So I want to reclaim my time for my ending. I want
Sorry,
to,
Shan.
yeah, I want to talk about, I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. I want to talk about the moral implications of what James did. I think he is a dick. I don't think he's redeemable. I think he's going to hell for what he did, if there is such a thing, because I think that
Silent hell.
yes, he's going to silent hell, right? He's going to that place, the prison that's, I timed it this time. It's 1 minute of straight running down those steps.
Wow.
In the what's it called?
Historical Society to the
Historical
prison.
Societies,
Yeah.
yeah. He's going straight down silent hell. So the motivation is what really matters. That is what is the measure of if what he did is morally correct or not. And that is my deontological perspective on if he's absolved or not for having murdered her. It is technically what she wanted, but his motivation is what determines if he is correct.
So to back up your point, Shan, though, I think if he is justified in what he is doing, okay, let me back up. I think the motivation 100% matters. I'm watching The Good Place right now, which we know is fact. And motivation is a big key factor in getting into the good place. And so anyway, wanted to throw that in there. But I think if he is justified, he does not need 3 pyramid heads worth of guilt and shame and going into psychosis. If he is justified, and because if he is justified, I don't think he's feeling guilty.
The Good Place. Sorry. So isn't it like Tahani? She does all this charity. She does all these amazing things, but what it came down to was her, why she did it, and it was because she was vain.
She was doing it selfishly and for the attention. But The Good Place kind of they don't always land on, I think they kind of waffle on motivation, because I think they also do this in season 1 where Eleanor, she wants to go flying, and so she cleans up, but she wasn't doing it for the right reason. She just wants to go flying, so she didn't clean because she wants to do good things, so she doesn't get to go flying. I thought that was, I think also the point system, if you boil it down, is kind of flawed, right? Because maybe somebody's doing a bunch of good things because they actually want to, but they're actually like buying a tomato that is supporting a corrupt CEO, but their motivation is good technically. They don't know it's
Yes.
supporting something evil, so their
That's the whole
motivation's still good. It's a
Yes, the whole
little
Doug
iffy.
Forsett timeline,
Yeah.
and that's why they want to change the whole system. So the
I guess
original
I
points,
I
yeah,
think that still checks out,
yeah,
right? Because it's still having a
yeah,
bad outcome. And
yeah,
that's not what this is saying. This is saying you can have a good outcome, but bad motivation.
that
And so I
motivation,
think their
yeah,
system still checks out.
yeah.
So this is saying if you have a good outcome, but bad motivation, is that okay? And this is arguing, and I would argue no, because his motivation was, I hate you.
I
To me,
think
it feels
two
like a hall
things can be
pass.
true, and I do think that it was a mercy kill, and I will defend James. They should not made him attractive and mysterious. And I want to back him up and say it was a mercy kill, but sometimes you can have mixed feelings and sometimes you have like, I'm a woman, okay? There's times where I do things and I'm like, wait, what was my motivation here? I was being selfish. And then I have to think it through and be like, oh, well, you know what? Like there was other things. I'm just immediately going towards guilt and like trying to like, what's that when you like hit yourself?
Flatulation,
Yeah, like
self-flatulation.
self-flagellation. Yeah, sure. I'm just whipping myself like Paul Bettany on Da Vinci Code, just going at it. So I don't know. Like I want to defend him. I still want to say he's good. It was a mercy kill because that's hard to watch for everybody. And he did want to move on with his life. And at least in our ending, he just like went and killed himself anyways. So
Okay, if he was an Uggo, would you defend him?
if he was an Uggo, I would not defend him.
Okay.
Okay,
And
So I
he's
was going to,
mysterious. So I actually, I definitely get attracted. I lust after characters who are very mysterious. And I actually just remembered that months ago, I can't remember what I was watching, but I was watching something and I'm like, why do I find this person so GD attractive? And I had to Google it, and it is a real thing that when you don't know somebody, like when they are like very mysterious, that actually like people get attracted to them because there's some kind of allure about it.
well, you also project what you want them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Maybe
it's
he
the
looks
black
too
box
much.
of attraction.
He also looks too much like Leon, and Leon Kennedy is a beautiful man, and he looks
Everybody
close
in
enough to him.
the Capcom reboot universe is attractive. They're all supermodels.
Grey's
Yes, but no
Anatomy.
one can high kick like Leon Kennedy. And so I just came off that high of playing. Maybe that was when I think that is when I Googled, like, why is this mysterious man so attractive to me? I think it was Leon Kennedy, but he also is just attractive and he does the most amazing high kick. So I think I'm just coming off that high. And then I segued into playing Silent Hill 2, and he looks close enough that I'm just projecting.
The poor man's Leon.
Yeah. I was
The
also going to
Leon.
Yeah.
come in with this other argument that I thought you would find interesting, because
Okay.
I believe in a previous episode you had brought up one of your favorite characters of all time, Rorschach, and I think that you had gotten a bad interpretation of him. I don't think you've understood the moral, philosophical understanding of why he is actually correct.
Yeah. I
So
just constantly think I can fix him.
No, so you have argued that, or you have said that he's an interesting character because he ironically runs around killing people, but he morally judges people to be bad people. And so he's just an interesting character that way. He actually is, in his head, he is 100% correct. He is a morally absolved character because his motivation is 100% pure. He is a deontologist. His motivation, or his moral absolutism, is that no justice can go unserved. And so if there is a crime that has risen to the level that they must be punished with death, and they are not being served with the punishment of death, and he can answer that crime with death, and his motivation isn't the lust of killing, but the lust of punishing crime with death. His motivation is 100% pure, so he has pure motivation. It is a good motivation. He is not a bad person. So Rorschach is 100% a pure person. He has never done anything wrong.
Yes, that was very beautifully put. I will say, like, Watchmen is one of my all-time favorite movies. Rorschach is one of my all-time favorite characters. I also just tend to lust after the bad boys. I am Team Damon on Vampire Diaries. I am Team Spike on Buffy. It's always the bad ones.
So this is exactly the argument with Dexter. So long as he has aligned himself to understand that he is killing because these people deserve to be killed and not because he wants to kill. So long as he has told himself that that's why he's killing, he has never done anything wrong. It's because justice has to be served.
Yes, and this was a mercy kill, and I will defend this man.
But that's not why he did it. So his motivation is impure, so he's evil.
No, I think it's mixed emotions. I really think that he just had to come to terms with
He
that.
says he hates her. That is an impure
Two
motivation.
Things can
He
be
is
true.
evil. He admitted it. And that's why he dissociates. That's literally his cognitive dissonance that causes him to dissociate. Like within an hour, he gets in his car, he drives to the restroom, he dissociates. That's how much cognitive dissonance he has. He creates an entire 3 pyramid heads or whatever.
Because he's guilty, because he did love her. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I want to defend this man.
I can't wait until you slip into your cognitive dissonance, until you create your pyramid head.
No, thank you.
What was that, Tucker?
And what's the name of this hotel again that they're at?
This is Lakeview Hotel. All right.
Pyramid head is not well, like, he's muscular. He's been working at the gym. I do appreciate that.
He's got a lankiness to him. And I like the way he gesticulates. Like, he's got like this, I don't know, it's impressive, right? Like, he's got a good musculature.
Have you watched some of these like silly videos on YouTube of Silent Hill 2 where people are sexualizing Pyramid? It's so funny.
Yes, the internet. What is that? Is it Rule 42 or what is that called? Rule 42. No, there's like a rule of the internet where so long as something exists, somebody has made fun of it on the internet.
Yeah, there's a video of where someone took Pyramid Head and he was just going to town on one of the leggy monsters, and that was intense. He was just raw dogging it. And then there's another one where James was like walking around town and he looks, I think, at the apartment building or the hotel, I can't remember which one, but he like looks up at this window and Pyramid Head just like puts his nips up on the window, and James gets this like really sexy look, and then he like kind of saunters right on in. Anyways, there's multiple videos and I was just hackling. It was so funny.
Okay, so do we move on from here?
Yes.
Have we covered the entire post game?
So, just up poll, where does this rank on your favorite horror games list?
Horror games. Or are you my favorite horror game? Are you my favorite horror game? Yeah, this is number 2 after Resident Evil 4.
This might take my top spot.
Okay,
really?
But how many horror games have you played?
Okay, so I'm thinking it's between 1 and 2, between this and Resident Evil 4, obviously.
Okay.
I don't know if there's...
I thought 5 was higher than 4 for you.
I think 4 is now higher for me.
Okay. You haven't even played the remake.
Reflecting after doing all of this, I'm like, oh yeah, that was probably objectively a better game. Oh, but yeah, there's something about Silent Hill. The novelty of it might still be hang on me of why I'm putting
a lot
it
of recency bias.
Yeah, exactly.
Does The Last of Us 2 fall under horror?
It's horror action adventure, so yeah, I think you could just definitively call it horror. Yeah. So okay, yeah, with that in there, that could be my number 1. So that would bump Silent Hill to 3.
Just for pure horror feeling, I think Silent Hill's my number 1. of just like going in and actually
pure horror.
experiencing pure horror, being tense the whole time I'm playing it. Resident Evil, kind of understand, okay, it wasn't very
Resident
gory.
Evil's horror action.
Yeah. And then The Last of Us is just, yeah, a really human story with horror elements.
It's horror
Yeah, I
survival.
would say like you'd have to do different ratings for different things. Like what we did with The Last of Us for the ending is how do you rate these on different scales? So as far as like favorite main character, Leon Kennedy is a beautiful man. He wins. As far as a beautiful story that just eats my heart and is so cathartic, then The Last of Us 2 is so incredibly well done, and I cry every time. And the way they have the story beats all throughout the game, they did a really good job at pacing. I know a lot of people don't love the pacing, but I thought it was amazing. And as far as like, yes, like actual horror and intrigue and mystery, I got that the most out of this. I just loved Leon's high kicks, but I didn't like I was invested in the story, but it played more like an arcade game for Resident Evil 4 where you're just busting through and you just see these beautiful high kicks left and right and there's story to it and you get to kill things. But yeah, they all are really amazing in so many different ways. But I would say top is Last of Us 2. Then probably Resident Evil 4 and Silent Hill 2. I would say they both are kind of tied in some way. I'd have to put more thought into it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard because it depends on if you want like pure like horror survival, horror action, like it kind of taints it one way or the other
Mm-hmm.
because if you want pure horror, this is like number one because there's no modern pure horror Resident Evil game that takes the crown. Resident Evil 2 would be the best pure horror Resident Evil modern game because number 4 is more of an action game.
Well, and it's like The Last of Us too. You can crouch down, you can listen around corners, you can take your time in areas, you can hear the clicking ahead of time, all of that. But this game, it's like it you're truly getting these intense jump scares. It's addicting in its own way because of all those jump scares that you really start craving when you're not playing it. And so I did find myself like really craving this game as I was playing it because I'm like, I want to know what's happening. And I wanted to be scared. So yeah, they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
I,
this is close to which Resident Evil. I keep getting mixed up. Resident Evil Nemesis,
3.
where he just keeps coming out of nowhere and just bum rushing you. That one really was like I was squealing a lot on that one, just like this.
One was the GOAT for me as a kid. It's not even like the best story at all, right?
Mm-mm,
But like the cat and mouse mechanic is really horrifying.
mm-hmm.
And like it was such a short game that like and like with all of the A B scenario mechanics that you can play, like I just played it shit ton. It's so fun.
was very surprised at the replayability of this game. I was surprised I wanted to replay it all the way through a second
Yeah, I'm
time
surprised you guys
within
did.
like 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I started playing because I'm like, oh, I'll get the chainsaw. I just want to see the mechanics of it. I'll go kill a few guys and I'll be done and we'll pick up this game for a while. I just became instantly addicted to it again and just wanted to see it all the way through.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, so do we go ahead and circle back and clean up all the things that we misunderstood?
Let's do it.
So we've talked about Angela. I think we've fixed everything that we misunderstood there. Do we go for Eddie at this point? Yeah. So Eddie, we see him throwing up. He has killed well, we don't know. He sees somebody, we see somebody dead in a refrigerator in the apartments. He's probably killed him. I don't know. This person is just moderately cold in the refrigerator, and we know that Eddie has like just gotten to town. And then we see him in the cafeteria of the prison. No, we see him in the theater.
Movie theater. Yeah, the movie
Mhm.
theater, raw dog and ice
Raw
cream.
dogging the ice cream with his hands. He's a little creepier at this point. He's talking to a kid, like a real creep. And do we learn anything really more about him at this point?
I think just the line of like, oh, now you want me to come? Now you want me to come with you? Just setting up the
Yeah,
stage a little bit for his personality.
I want to know
yeah.
where he got pizza in this town.
We're also setting up the point that like he has, we don't know that he's been bullied for his weight, but we know that that's like a crippling personality flaw for him.
Worth noting is everybody sees Silent Hill differently, so we don't really know what Silent Hill Eddie's seeing. He could be Eddie's monsters could just be constantly bullies. That's why he's the way that he is now.
Also, he's probably throwing up at the beginning because he had just run into town after like shooting the dog. And so he's just like a little anxious that he's going to get caught. That's, as far as I know, that's why he's like, he's just anxious. Oh, and he just murdered the person probably.
And in the theater, we learn he's running from the cops. Because that's when Laura is like, yeah, can you just say you're sorry? Or whatever line she uses.
Yeah. All right, so then we see him in prison, and he's getting a little crazier, and we see somebody else who's dead, and the cafeteria is even colder. And let's see, do we learn anything else about his character here? He's just acting
Eddie,
crazier.
He acts like he shot the guy, and then he's like, oh, just kidding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he has kind of a funky story. Because he talks about like, oh, he just came up on me, he like surprised me and I shot him, but then his story changes to where this guy, I guess, was lurking around. Eddie didn't have any choice. He had to preemptively kill this person. And so he has a funky story here. I think establishing that I don't want to say he's a liar, but he's not forthcoming with what's actually going on. Trying to, I guess, justify the killing to himself in those moments.
Right. And then we see him for the last time at the end of the prison, and we see another dead body. He shoots it several times, and he acknowledges that Silent Hill has brought James here. So Silent Hill, at this point, we realize that it's something to everyone, that it is a town that has, it's like a, he doesn't really say what it is, but it's like an acknowledgement that it's like a purgatory for people that have messed up. And we know that the common thread at this point is that these people have all killed someone.
Mm-hmm.
Exception
And
of
so,
Laura.
Yeah, no, but it's not that everybody there has killed somebody, but it's that, but I think it's just saying that Eddie is saying that that's what has tied James to him, and he knows that that's what they're both going through, right? And so, and we're also in like a meat freezer. And so I just wanted to point out that we've now seen a refrigerator, we've seen a cafeteria, and we've seen a freezer. We are seeing that we're seeing like an escalation in the temperatures, or a de-escalation. We're seeing like the temperatures drop in every scene that we're seeing other than the theater. So we're seeing the detachment of Eddie as he's becoming isolated, as he's becoming more psychotic, and he's feeling more detached from humanity because he doesn't, he's scared of getting caught, or he feels like everybody's bullying him, and he's alone and he doesn't know where to go. And he thinks James is part of this, and so he just wants to get on top of this, and he wants to kill James because he's part of the bullies that are all after him. Right? Is that right?
I think that sums up Eddie's storyline pretty well. Yeah, I think that he's just like Angela. He's seeing James as a bully, where Angela was seeing him as a potential predator to her toes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was trying to find this too. I just wanted to, I already like messaged this to you guys, but just to kind of read it out loud. There was a tweet, I believe, by one of the creators of this game, and he specifically says, Angela, Eddie, and Laura are real people. Angela killed her daddy. Eddie killed a football player's dog and shot his knee. and Laura had never killed anyone, so she couldn't see any of the creatures.
Right. So Angela and Eddie are like perennial victims. And so every time they interact with James, they can only see him through the perspective of he must be another perpetrator, or he must be trying to attack them in some way. And I imagine that's how a lot of victims see the world. And I've seen victims of SA, they also see all men this way. They no longer have trust in men at all anymore. So they just are always on ease. There's always like all conversation with them is a sense of unease. It's a sense of distrust, and they're always like defensive of how they have approach even the most innocuous of conversations. And I think that's kind of true of like even in Eddie's situation, where he was just a victim of being bullied for being overweight and kind of slovenly for his cretinous way of eating ice cream and pizza. I can only, I think, say that so brazenly because, I've eaten a pound of M&Ms in a single sitting. This is, the kind of childhood that I had. I also can get defensive if somebody, says anything about the way that I eat or the way that I look. Like, I immediately can get defensive. I wouldn't say I get defensive about anything somebody says about the way I look anymore because I've recovered a little bit from it. But, there's always like a defense that I have in all of those contexts. Like I go swimming and it took me like 10 years to get to the point where even though I had lost weight, I could take off my shirt. Like there's always a guard there that you have if you've ever been a victim, right? Like, yeah, Tucker, you've
And Shan
been
looks
overweight.
fantastic.
I look okay now, but
No.
Tucker, you've been were you ever bullied? I know you were a bully, but you have been overweight.
Were you a bully?
No, I was not. I was
So
a
when you were
classic
kids, you would have bullied Shan.
because I was a fat kid too. I had no talk.
He was a fat kid and
kid?
a bully, so he was preemptively bullying people so that he
I was not a
wouldn't get
bully.
bullied.
I was just kind of a dick as a middle schooler. That was it.
Is that not what a bully is?
I didn't have victims. I had like
Tucker, you still can't see it.
You went the dick route. Shan went the funny route.
But no, like, yeah, I totally understand that. Like there's a blow to a sense of self in those situations to where it takes a lot to recover from that. I think a lot of people don't ever really fully recover.
Yeah. Emerlie, were you going to say something?
I wasn't a fat kid. I don't know.
Ag.
Humble brag. I was very twiggy.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to talk about like when we went swimming, and I was going to bring up how our dad was being really weird about it.
Mm-hmm.
It just the whole time, it was like, here you were finally like taking your shirt off around family to go swimming. And our dad was just like, he was like, but you're so pale. You're so pale. And he could not just like compliment you. He just had to drag you down. He's a great guy, but he still had to like really drag you down and find something to attack. And he's like, oh, you're so pale. You need a tan. And it's like, dude, just chill. Just like compliment him. This is a big deal. You have to work extra hard for that. Because yeah, like the moment you stop working out, you gain back all your weight. You have to actively keep that weight off. And I just wanted to give you some compliments.
Thank you. That being said, Eddie had to be shot in the face. He does deserve it. Being bullied does not absolve you of becoming a dog murderer.
It's not a hall pass.
It's not a hall pass to dog murder. So,
people murder maybe, but dog murder, no.
Yeah. All right. So, Eddie, you will not be missed. You deserve to be shot in the face.
And you raw dogged too much ice cream.
Yeah. Share that 5-gallon with the rest of us. Could have made a few more friends instead of bullies had you shared that ice cream.
More flies with honey than vinegar. He should have learned that lesson.
All right, let's see. Who else do we do? Laura, We've kind of covered her. She could never see the monsters. Okay, I was right about this. This is my other big one. Maria could see her, but Laura never saw Maria. So running out of the theater, Laura never saw her because she had already run past at that point. In the hospital, she had never turned around and saw Maria, but Maria always saw her. Maria always had a draw to help Laura, and that comes back to like it being a projection of Mary when they knew each other in the hospital. And just, yeah, Laura never seeing the monsters when she's running through the city or the town. And is there any other context? She doesn't see flesh lip. She just locks you in there because she's a brat. And there's no other context, right? Like that covers everything that you
think that's
didn't
it.
know at the first playthrough. Okay.
Yeah, you never quite realize that like none of these characters actually interact until you go back and really start thinking
I
about it.
caught
It's
that
like, oh
one.
shoot. Yeah, you did bring that up like a couple episodes ago, and we're like, I don't know. I think she saw her. I think they interacted for a split second, but no, they didn't. So yeah,
I
Maria's a projection, but Laura was real.
think it makes a lot of sense of why Laura is in all these kind of creepy places in town, because to her they're not creepy.
Mm-hmm.
The movie theater could just be a normal movie theater to her, and he just happens to be some guy that brought ice cream. So obviously she's going to sit next to him.
Maybe it wasn't melted to her.
But he's still raw dogging it.
Oh, Eddie was creepy to you.
Yeah, just going through with this to the second playthrough, like not everybody sees Silent Hill the way you see it was just
Mhm.
mind blowing to me. Like, oh, everything now starts to line up and make sense.
Yeah. All right, the big one, Maria. So you get to your special place and Maria is there, and it's because you wanted Maria to be there. Because Maria is a projection of everything you wanted Mary to be, which is this sexy and sexually active version of Mary that Mary couldn't be when she became sick. And she's spunky, she's hip, she's very aggressive. And so you tricked yourself into going to this spot so that she could be there when you got there. And then she just started thirsting after the D at that point. And so, like, I'm curious why you started, like, pulling away at that point. I think you're just in denial. You still think that you're interested in Mary. So it's just, again, that cognitive dissonance of, like, I'm still wholesome, but your id is trying to get yourself to run off with Maria. I think there's an ending where you just run off with Maria. You actually convince yourself to go with your id, the craven sexual version of Mary that you actually want.
Yeah, I thought I was talking about like the other alternate ending with Maria was kind of dark, how he decides to leave with her, which I guess she's not real anyways. But then she coughs and he's like, you better get that taken care of or something. And it's like, whoa, James,
Yeah.
you're toxic.
I think there are like sounds that you hear while you're playing the game of like some coughing. Like there's like some sound bites you hear. I forgot to point that out. I hope I'm not misremembering that. Just in like the soundtrack.
It's interesting.
Oh, I have a note, and this maybe doesn't line up with Maria as we know her now. I kind of the first playthrough, I think Maria represents what he's trying to fill the Maria hole in his life with. You end up fighting her at the end because you have to finally push off that. Finally, have to come to terms with. You came to terms with your guilt and shame of killing her with the pyramid heads, but now you have to come to terms with this thought of who you wish Maria was or wish Mary was, but that's not her, or what you're trying to fill that hole in your life with. And I think, back to your point, Shan, I think Maria is a representation of everything James wanted Mary to be, but she wasn't that for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why she's the final boss, is because you have to finally fight off idea to fully accept what you did.
Yeah. Also very ham-fisted. I questioned it the moment I saw her, but I didn't connect it until my second playthrough. She's wearing a choker, and you choke her out.
You smother her.
You
That's
smother her,
dark.
but like you choke out the ever living breath out of her. So it's symbolic. I don't know what the butterfly represents, if not like it's like a metamorphosis of another version of Mary. That's probably what that means.
No, she was a trapped cocoon in her hospital bed, and she died, and she was
Yeah,
able to
she was
float
reborn
off
from
into
that.
the great beyond. I don't know.
Yeah. And the grotesque, like cocoon version of her became
Mm-hmm.
fleshlit.
Yes,
That
exactly.
body
There you
bag
go.
version of her.
And Maria is the sexy butterfly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right. You go to the bar. Is there anything we can recontextualize there? She just.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Shan. Just what he wanted Maria to be a little bit more rambunctious,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more, yeah, seductive.
I think he's visited that club during his time there, avoiding Mary, and he, I don't know, had some weird kink because there was the costume, the nurse costume, and it was all laid out, and it's like, I don't know. I think that he got off on that going over to the
Or
club.
or while he was visiting Mary in the hospital, he came onto the nurses.
Oh,
Yeah.
Makes sense. You see the nurses, you got to find them off at every
And
turn.
that's why
they're all lusting
also
after the.
yeah, that's why he keeps projecting those monsters and legs, is because
Yeah.
he was thirsting after all these women.
He's
That's
a
why
legs
they're
guy.
double leggy monsters. He's like all these women, he's lusting after them.
He just
He's a
wants to have a
legs and
sex
ass
train with
guy.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all legs with him. It's all coming together. All right. And body bags, these like straitjackets. Like he's into that, the
Oh, tie
restraints
downs.
and
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
BS. Oh, yeah. Never mind.
BDSM.
BSM.
Yeah. Came yeah, it was
Feces play. He has a lot of
Feces
weird
plays
kinks.
into that.
he's also into feet. He's a feet guy.
Yeah.
He's
Big
got a
into
lot of
feet
kinks.
play. Yeah. I think he could get real wild. He's pretending to be like even killed in like milk toast, but he's got a wild side. Probably
Mm-hmm.
likes whip play. He's into some wild stuff. All right, so you go to the theater. Nothing there with Maria. She kind of holds back. Then you go to the hospital. She lays in bed. I was right about that, in that
Mm-hmm.
she feels comfortable in the bed, because I didn't know it was literally because of Mary, but there was a connection there. And then you reconnect with her in the other world. Now we know she can kind of just slip between them because she's a projection.
Also, she comes and yells at you.
I'm so scared.
She's like, yeah, you were supposed to take care of me. You said you're going to take care of me, which I thought was
Yeah.
a really, yeah, thing of, okay, yeah, this is projection of Mary.
Yeah. That's when she says, I just want to take care of Laura. I feel like I have to. And so it's talking about that connection with Laura. I don't know if we want, I don't think there's really anything to it, but before we run past the hospital, there's also the moment where Pyramid Head shoves you down on the rooftop. I don't think that there's anything really special, but I thought maybe the diary had to do something with Maria, but it doesn't, or Mary. I actually was going to say, I think that just Pyramid Head is here just trying to force him to remember that something about Maria while she's in the hospital. I feel like that's just trying to get him to confront it. That was my only thought there. Anyway, then you get into this chase sequence with Maria in the hospital, and she gets skewered. I feel like Pyramid Head is just constantly trying to kill Maria in front of him to remind him that you killed Maria. I think that's what's going on there. I don't know. That's my thought.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. And then you're on in the jail where you see her dead.
You just see her dead. You don't see he killed her that time.
Killed her, but yeah, but I think.
But it's in the hospital bed.
Also, that was really interesting. The second playthrough, I noticed it is like a hospital bed in the jail. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Yeah,
showing
exactly.
like, okay, you killed, like, this is her dead body. Like, you need to confront this.
Although, but like it was brutalized, right? So I didn't understand that symbolism because he did just smother her. So I don't know why it was like beaten, unless it was just like they wanted to represent some other way she was killed that time.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be that the turmoil of their relationship. He did it because he hated her. I guess she was sitting there peacefully. It's, hey, this is a mercy thing. But I think the brutalized part is showing his motivation and that it was wrong.
Let's see, what else? I
Got
don't
her.
think there's much to the labyrinth, especially with Pyramid Head or Maria. And then you just see Maria again with the Pyramid Heads. She gets skewered. We've already covered Angela again in that last section. Then we cover the endings where she turns into a fleshlet. She turns into a fleshlet because that represents Mary and her sickness. And
I had another thing if we want to move on to non-people, but kind of people. So, again, I was looking up a lot of different theories and things, and I guess like this is a theory from the older games that it seems like apparently in the remake they kind of leaned more into it, is when you see all these dead bodies, especially in the Eddie section, or anytime you run into Eddie, there's like all these dead bodies, they kind of actually look like you. And so there's this theory that you're actually like stuck in a time loop. And so this, like, you keep going through the same scenario, and those dead bodies are all the different times that you've died, and then you just like continue through that loop.
don't like it. They're not
No?
blonde.
Were they not?
No, they're all black and brown haired.
Okay.
But they're to that point, you never see their faces. So I don't know what to make of that. I figured that they were all projections of the football player that he killed.
I don't think he killed the football player. He killed the
Yeah, he
dog and
didn't
then he
kill him.
shot the
Yeah,
knee
that's
of the
right.
football player.
Yeah.
So he
So
probably has some like weird dog monster that just keeps coming around humping him.
I would kill the dog
Exactly
in
it.
that situation too, and I would just like go to hell for that. But like if a dog's humping my leg, I don't know, I'd probably get some white rage for that.
No,
Depends
I
on
mean,
the
like
dog.
in Silent Hill, it's like abstract doggy is just going at it with you. And also
Okay.
it talks about how he shot the dog and then he says something about like it was eating its own intestines and it was so pathetic. So like he's got some weird grotesque dog, just abstract doggy, just going doggy style on him.
Yeah. I feel like
I'd
there
be
was like
paranoid
something
too.
else to like the abstract daddy scene, something else Angela says that I keep forgetting to mention, and I can't recall it. There's something else to that scene, but I don't know. Don't have to dwell on it.
Does mention in that she does switch briefly from mama to mother, I think, in that scene. She switches back to mama.
She does.
Is
She's like,
really,
my
yeah.
mama, mother,
I think she has this brief kind of out of childhood trauma moment and then gets brought right back in.
Well, can we elaborate? I mean, we keep talking about it, but this is, again, like supposedly Silent Hill is the veil between like reality, unreality, and you kind of like are slipping, around. So, I think in a way this is purgatory in its own way, while also like entirely being in his mind.
Right.
I still feel like it's both because like in the whole time it does play out like purgatory. I do feel like it's both, but I don't want to know like what your guys' definitive answer is.
No, it's like a real place, but I think that it's sort of like it's like a Silent Hill's like a prism that allows him to like push through another reality or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's still entirely in his head, but like a Silent Hill allows him to see it.
Like, it's weird that Eddie mentions, oh, this town called you here too. And so to me, it feels like there's Silent Hill is kind of its own entity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
bringing in
actually,
people.
again, one of these videos, like it seemed this person was super knowledgeable of everything Silent Hill, and it was a very rich history of all the stuff that has happened there. So obviously, like when you pick up all this stuff, you do read a lot of it, but it was very well put together. I'll have to find this video and send it to you guys. But they were talking about how basically this is set in Maine. And so this used to be Indian ground. And you do hear Mary saying, oh, they say this is a sacred place. I understand why it's so beautiful. But supposedly it was sacred Indian ground. And then they got pushed out by all of the new settlers that came over. And, there's all this other stuff with there's a woman who was accused by or persecuted by the Christians. And so that possibly could have alluded to witchcraft. And anyways, it's just talking about, and then you had the plague that came through at a different time and just wiped a bunch of people out. So in a way, it could be that basically this is sacred ground. A lot of really intense bad things have happened here, and that is why it's such a supernatural place. And I haven't seen The Shining yet. It's still one of those I have to go back and watch it. But apparently this game was inspired by The Shining, which had kind of a similar backstory where a lot of this stuff is able to kind of project because of, do you guys know? Have you seen it?
Well, I've seen it. Yeah, I've read the book as well. Stanley Kubrick, so I love Stephen King. I've read a lot of his books. The book is better. Stanley Kubrick, it is great, but Stephen King does not like the movie. He just hates it. And I still think it's great, but it does a few things that I think are wonky and weird, but it's still a good artistic, fantastic movie.
But is it something similar where it's some kind of Indian ground, sacred, whatever? That's what
Yeah,
it kind of sounded like.
I am curious though, because that's a trope that's decades old. I'm curious if that's acceptable to do anymore. Just if that's aged well and if you can still do that, right?
No, I
Because
don't
it's
think so.
yeah, I'm curious if that trope has been shelved.
There's a Buffy episode like this too. I think it's a Thanksgiving episode with Indian ancient burial ground, and Thanksgiving is all
Yeah.
about the settlers. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is definitely overdone, but I don't think it's acceptable anymore to
Yeah.
do it.
I'm reminded of Chief Ken Hotate from Parks and
Yeah,
Recreation.
and he just BS's it.
He just if there's anything I know about white people, it's that they love Rachel Ray and they are terrified of curses.
Exactly.
It's the curse.
I do love that. But anyways, going back to Silent Hill, basically all of these terrible things have happened, but kind of piecing together that video and what I saw, I do think that there is some supernatural things definitely going on there. And I think that might be also kind of plaguing people. And so I think that they were visiting Silent Hill, and that's where you saw the videotape of her early on before she got sick, where she starts coughing. So I think there is for some reason, she did get sick from being in Silent Hill. And maybe also, there's some stuff, supernatural things that kind of seep into your brain and can also just make you a little bit crazy, because you do have these monsters in their little straitjacket looking things, and they just keep talking about all these different plagues and sicknesses and all these crazy patients and stuff. And so I think it takes vulnerable people and it just kind of seeps into them and either makes them physically sick and vomiting and all that stuff, or it makes them mentally ill. So who knows? Maybe James is a victim as well. And also, for some reason, these people are also drawn to that area. There's a lot going on.
I can't wait for the Bluebird team. They're going to move on, I'm sure, but they have said that they're open to doing more of these games, that they're just not actively working on them. But since they've received such accolades and positive reception, I think that they will get the green light to do any others that they want. And I hope that they just get carte blanche to go any direction that they want and just get crazy with it.
And maybe try the movies again. Sorry, Tucker. I just wanted to point out that I don't know if you guys figured this out, but as I was doing a ton of research, it took me a while to find out that this was even a thing, but there was a little side game to Silent Hill 2. And you play as Maria prior to James coming into town.
It's in the void for James to show up.
I don't know. There's like some man in the apartments or something. I don't know a whole lot of what's going on there, but supposedly, yeah, there's a whole side game. So I don't know if they're gonna remake that as a little DLC, but it would be really
You just
interesting.
lay in bed and you just cough, try to get the man to come out. Hey, man.
I think I'm getting the black lungs pops. Damn it, Derek, you've been down there for one day. Talk to me in 30 years.
Merman.
Let's see. We also just need to clarify. We've learned that the strange photos. Well, I don't think I ever learned really what they were. I think they're just of random people that have come through. Is that true? Or
Polaroids you find?
yeah, Polaroids.
I'm not sure what they are. I think, Emerlie, I think in a like offline text message, you mentioned that it could be like the save spots. Or maybe that was an earlier episode.
I mentioned
No, that was
that.
someone
I'm
else,
wrong
yeah.
about that.
Okay, there we go.
Because the last one that you find is just pure red, the last Polaroid, and I was like, oh, are these like all the red squares you find? That was a bunk idea. That was stupid.
Well, there was one, the one that for some reason I remember more than most of them, because a lot of them were so abstract and weird. It was like, here's a picture of a door, or here's a really blurry picture. But there was one that was a trash can and there's trash around it, but now I'm thinking that might have been Kleenexes or something from when she was sick. I don't know. I just think it's like his memories kind of seeping through as he's dissociating and just like little snapshots from his past.
I just found a Reddit post that kind of follows that same.
And that might, or going back, like, there's also all the times where you're just like looking at random things and it just kind of does this like weird sounds like wow, and you're just staring at something completely random. Those are also kind of confusing. I don't know if it's supposed to be the same thing. They just kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Maybe
But
that's like you getting triggered to start to try to remember.
well,
So
remember some of them
apparently-
were hieroglyphs, which might have had something to do. They looked like hieroglyphs, but maybe had something to do with that ancient Indian sacred ground.
No, so those were apparently like from the original game. Those were like more specifically points of interaction from the original game, and they were just callbacks.
Okay.
So they
Little
were just
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. And as for the red squares, the save points, it says they commonly represent the inner feelings of the characters in the story. So I want to get like a better explanation for that.
Like Tucker pointed out, it kind of looks like he's staring into it. I think it's just like this metaphor of he is dissociating, he's in psychosis, and when he's saving, he's just kind of staring into the abyss, which is often referenced of the story of the abyss. So.
Okay.
Interesting that the last save point in the game is, I think, 9 of them. I think it's a 3x3 grid of the red squares.
It says it represents his 9 delusions, but I don't know what that means.
Maybe, I don't know. It's like a red flag with a bull. It's his anger.
And then it just like links off to a reference of some random dude's tweet. So I don't know if that guy's full of shit. You can't just like create a wiki and then just like reference stupid random tweets. Like that
is exactly what a wiki is. It's made up BS. And anyone can do anything.
Is this what the internet
and we
is?
pay for it. Yes, this is what the internet is. It's the collective subconscious.
So I was right not to look on the internet to figure out everything that I figured out so far. I was right to just kind of like figure it out on my own because it is no better than anything that I've looked up that I didn't know already.
I have loved wildly speculating this entire game and getting some things right. It's been super fun.
Yeah. I feel like I nailed like guessing randomly what the pyramid represented on Pyramid Head. Like I 100% just made that up. I'm 100% sure I'm right. Like I could have looked that up on a wiki and it would have like referenced some stupid idiot, like some idiot's tweet. It would have been no better than what I came up with. So you're welcome, internet. You can ingest that in your next. You can ingest that into your next AI model.
There you go.
It'll become a source of truth. All
Shan
right,
the
so did we
expert.
do it?
We did it.
Did we do the
Yeah.
podcast?
I think
did the
this is a
podcast.
very strong contender for Game of the Year this year.
Yeah.
Be very surprised if it wasn't one of the top ones. Just fantastic, fantastic fun game. Can't praise it enough.
I loved it. Story-wise, acting, the voice acting was phenomenal.
And he sounded like George Clooney.
All of them.
How was I not supposed to fall in love with him?
I think there's something missing inside of you. So,
I need to fill that hole with
how
some
many
deep...
characters did you fall in love with this year?
Oh,
That's at
man.
least 2.
That's at least 2 new characters. That's true. I've been rewatching a lot of older stuff, so I haven't been introduced to a lot of new characters this year, but very lustful.
Yeah, you've got a lot of people, they have a god hole, and I don't believe in God. You gotta fill it with pussy.
Yeah, exactly. My
What a perfect way to end the episode. I think I've referenced that 3 times now.
It's
I was
gonna say, it's
relevant
almost
every
each episode,
single
yeah.
time.
It's just something that's always on my mind.
I'm sorry, but this is a Sunny Stan podcast. We're going to be referencing Sunny way too much, and there's going to be some repeating jokes.
Yeah. So that's our thoughts. We are not going to do a bonus because we kind of just wrapped it up all into this episode. This is kind of our definitive episode for the entire Silent Hill saga, and we loved it. Perfect 11 out of 10. We will have this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're going to continue doing The Last of Us Part 2. Please listen to Eric's Indie Corners and whatever the F else that we want to randomly sprinkle in throughout the year. Please like and subscribe because we now have 42 subscribers. Again, mostly spouses. We would like to get some actual fans in there. And so
actual
that we
fan,
can
drop us a comment. We want to hear from you.
We know if you actually exist or if you're just bots. We want to know if the algos are treating or like actually spreading our seed to like some random people out there. That'll do it for us today. Bye.
Outro. Bleepity-doof, bleepity, bloopity blow.